In the last video, we spoke about dietary fat, basically the fat that we eat in our food. And we saw about different classification of that dietary fat. We saw some of these fats are good for the body. Some of these dietary fats are bad for the body. The classification, the quantity that you should have, all these details is something that we covered. Today, in this video, we are going to talk about the fat which is seen inside our body, right? So obviously, how is this fat created? Obviously, there are multiple classification of that fat, but typically a person gains fat if a person consumes excess calories in terms of excess carbohydrate or excess fat or excess protein, anything. If you eat excess, that gets stored in our body as body fat. So mind you, excess carbohydrate is not the problem. The word excess is the problem there, right? So excess of anything will get stored in our body and that becomes fat. What is a permissible fat range for a person? The permissible fat range is for a male, it would be somewhere around 15 to 20%. For a female, it's slightly higher. It can go up to say around 20 to 23% for a female. And that's of the total body weight. And that's the permissible body fat percentage for both for a male and for a female. In this video, we are going to talk about the kind of the body fat that is seen in the body, the classification of it. Of course, some of them are good and vital for the normal functioning of the body. Some of them are not. And we are going to talk about the quantities of what levels can a person have individual of these classification of body fat. And that's what we are addressing today. My name is Rajiv Ambat. I'm the CEO and the Chief Health Officer at NuvoVivo Center for Obesity, Lifestyle Disorders and Research. We are an online health and wellness company into the field of medical fitness. So it's not just about losing weight or looking fit and young or reversing the age, but it is also about managing lifestyle diseases such as diabetes, cholesterol, thyroid, PCOD, fatty liver, uric acid, hypertension, etc. So basically bring in the idea of fitness, which is all about dieting, exercising and everything. Bring that along with the understanding of the medical side of health and wellness to not only lose weight, look good, but also manage or even reverse these lifestyle diseases that I just mentioned. Coming back to the topic, the classification of body fat. Now, when we talk about the body fat, there are basically two types of body fat classification, prime classification. One would be the essential body fat and another one would be the storage body fat. Essential body fat, as the name says, is very essential for our body and you need that for proper functioning of our body. For example, fat is seen in our brain. Did you know 60% of our brain is actually fat? Fat is also seen in bone marrow. It is important for normal nerves to function. Fat is also seen as a protective membrane around organs and vital organs. So fat is important and it is essential for the normal functioning of the body. And that's basically what we call as the essential body fat. And that's something that we need. Yeah, that takes us to the next kind of the classification, which is the storage fat. So as the name says, it's the means of storing energy, excess calorie gets stored in our body as fat. I've already mentioned that. And that's the storage fat. Where does this fat get stored? This fat gets stored in the form of triglycerides, in adipocytes. Adipocytes are the cells which actually stores fat in our body, and that adipocytes store fat in the form of triglycerides. Yeah, there are two classifications of storage fat. One is a subcutaneous body fat. Subcutaneous body fat is the fat which is right below the skin. Something which it's also known as pinchable body fat. So when you can actually pinch it and feel that body fat. That's the subcutaneous body fat. Subcutaneous body fat is what makes us feel warm when it is cold outside. Yeah, so that's subcutaneous body fat. Now, subcutaneous body fat is not too much of a problem creator for a person because it does not meddle with the normal metabolism of a person as much as the next one that I'm going to say, which is the next classification of the storage fat, the abdominal body fat or the visceral body fat. Now, this is a villain. Visceral body fat is the fat which is seen between the visceral organs, and especially they form some sort of a deposition on the liver, deposition on top of the pancreas, so on and so forth, and that's basically something which is bad. And in the medical terms, it is known as visceral fat is an endocrine system. It behaves like an endocrine system, of course, in a negative way by kind of meddling with the normal metabolic procedures and also reducing the insulin sensitivity of the body, so on and so forth. So it's not so great, right? So that's the visceral body fat. Yeah. So these are the three classification of the body fat. Now, I earlier mentioned that the healthy fat range for a man is somewhere around 15 to 20%. And for a female is somewhere around, it can go up to say 23, 24% also. Yeah, so that's the body fat, ideal body fat percentage range. So let's take a man, say, let's for calculation's sake, 80 kilogram in body weight, and around 20% of that will be the body fat, right? That's the maximum permissible level. So that we are talking about 20% of 80, 16, right? Let's approximate it to 15 kilograms. So 15 kilograms is the body fat, total body fat, which is the sum total of the essential body fat plus the subcutaneous body fat plus the visceral body fat. Yeah. Now let's see how much are the upper limit and the range of each of these classifications. So when we talk about the essential body fat, roughly 20% of the overall body fat is the subcutaneous is the essential body fat. So we're talking about somewhere around 3 kg, 2.5 to 3 kg of the total body fat is actually the essential body fat, which earlier I said is a combination of the fats in the bone marrow, fats in our brain, and many other vital organs, and that's the essential body fat. So somewhere around 2 to 3 kg is the essential body fat which our body needs, and it's essential for our body. Yeah. Now takes us the visceral body fat. The maximum higher permissible level of the visceral body fat is somewhere around 10 to 12%. So we are actually talking about somewhere around 1.5 or maximum up to a sort of 2 kilograms of body fat of the total fat should be the visceral fat, and it should not be beyond that. But that's not what we see. Most of the men, especially who are having a pot belly, has definitely more amount of fat than the prescribed range that I mentioned. So that's the visceral fat or the abdominal fat. And the other one is the subcutaneous body fat, which is in a healthy male or a healthy person. That's the major source of the fat storage, roughly around 60 to 70%. So we are talking about roughly around 9 to 10 kilograms of the body total fat as subcutaneous fat. This is the normal range. But most often, if a person is overweight and has an excessive belly, you would see that the abdominal fat might be as high as probably 5 to 7 or perhaps more in terms of kilograms in weight, instead of 2 or 2.5 kg maximum permissible level. Yeah. So that's basically the different kinds of the body fat. Obviously, for a female, the essential body fat is slightly higher, not just 3 kg, it will be a lot more because there are much higher amount of fat deposition, especially seen around the sex related aspects, fat deposition on the breast, so on and so forth. So that's basically so that's why female has a slightly higher range in terms of the body fat percentage. Now, when we talk about the fat deposition on for a male versus a female, most often what we see is that a man would have fat deposition primarily around the belly, which is the visceral fat, and women are more prone towards fat deposition on the thighs and the hip area. So that's basically the body fat categories, and the essential, which is the important fat, versus the storage fat. Storage fat is also important, but up to a certain permissible level. And excess calories is what goes in and settles in our body, and most often it goes in and settles where it gets settled in the belly area, causing visceral fat and a lot of other issues and medical conditions related to that. Yeah. So I hope this information was helpful, and the very easy method of reducing body fat is just by creating calorie deficit. You just need to do that in a very sensible manner. What do I mean by sensible manner? Don't just go and crash diet. If you crash diet, it is going to be a double whammy. You will end up losing muscles also, and you will gain everything that you lost much faster. What you lose will be a combination of muscle and fat, but what you gain back will be everything fat. So, the earlier weight, probably body composition wise, you probably would have deteriorated. So don't do that. Be sensible with the calorie deficit, and also make sure you're meeting adequate amount of protein. Now, what is adequate amount of protein? Depends on person to person. It depends on gender, it depends upon medical conditions, it depends upon physical activity levels, so on and so forth. Yeah. So I hope this information was helpful. If you want to have any clarifications or has any questions, do comment below. Would be more than happy to clear all your doubts. All right, this is Rajiv Ambat signing off. As always, stay healthy, stay fit, stay young, and stay safe. Take care. Bye.